Today is April the 9th, 2024. We're delighted to have Moshe Gold back. Moshe is a great friend of our community. So great to see you, Moshe. You know, we have been spending the last 6 months, and of course, we've checked in with you several times already. And I can tell you personally, and I can tell you on behalf of the shul, Israel is part of our every waking moment. People know that they come to shul on Shabbos, then they're going to hear something about Israel in some way, and that's because our lives are inextricably connected to Israel and to you personally. And so we reached out to you to, we could reach out to all sorts of experts, all sorts of IDF people. Everybody's on this, but Moshe is our expert. Moshe is our personal madrich, and he's got lots to share with us, especially about what he's doing now and who he's seeing, what kinds of people, what kinds of things are being experienced. And here, I'm going to turn it over to you, Moshe. Go ahead. I'm going to make you a
Okay,
spotlight.
Boker Tov, everyone. So good to see you all. And I see we're up to 28 people and going up more and more. So Boker Tov from Yerushalayim, or just outside of Jerusalem, from a Moshav called Beit Zayit. As you remember, I live just outside of Jerusalem. My wife is still playing volleyball or something after work, and my parents are taking care of the twins, Shai and Carmi, and they're having a lot of fun. So I'm calm, and I'm here with you to take you on a little journey here to Eretz Israel. And as we do always, we're gonna go in a couple different directions, but the idea is going to be a briefing about what's happening not only with the land, but the people of Israel. We always talk about the people of Israel. That's one of our big overall themes in all of our meetings throughout the years. Every time I get on this Zoom, I'm very excited to meet you, but it always comes like a week after Rabbi and I start discussing, and we get on the phone and we're like, okay, so what's happening in Israel? What are the things we should focus on this time? And things are changing daily. At any moment we're talking right now, there's a new headline on the Israeli news and the different networks. But I'm going to try this time, since we're coming into Chodesh Nisan. I'm going to take you a little bit outside with me, right? It's the Chodesh of the Aviv, the month of the Aviv, and things are growing and things are evolving, and hopefully things are changing slowly for the better as well, maybe. I'm going to take you outside with me to what I've been doing in the past 2-3 weeks, because I think this will interest you. One of the phenomena, one of the things going on right now in Israel is really all these solidarity trips. People are coming to Israel. You were like the first community, by the way, Rabbi, that said to me already like November 1st or whatever, one of our first sessions during the war, so some of you were saying, so can we come? We want to help. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't know about the airports. Is it doable right now? But you know what? People started coming already in the end of October, beginning of November. First rabbis came here, then cowboys from Montana that wanted to support,
I
the
also
Western
think our
Negev
daughter's
and work
supposed
in
to
the
come
fields.
today at 1 o'clock, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, keep going. I'm going to mute people.
Okay. And right now, more and more congregations.
Well, let's do it another day. Maybe
are slowly, making their way towards Israel for these
Adama
short
doesn't-
trips.
Whoops, I'm sorry, Moshe. Sorry. You got to unmute yourself. I'm sorry. You have to unmute. Unmute, Moshe. Unmute.
Can you hear me right now?
Now I can hear you. Go ahead. Just
Fantastic.
everyone, if you could all be muted, that's great.
So everyone, let's go back to logistics for a second. You can write things on chat. On the bottom line, there's a chat tab. You can write questions. I'll check it every now and then. And I would love it for you to ask questions also during the time we're talking. I'll stop every now and then for you to ask questions with your voice as well. Just give me a thumbs up if you could see people working in the field, just so I know my screen is shared. Okay.
Yes.
Stababa. So here it's happening, right? This is last week talking about these solidarity trips. People are out there, they get off the planes and they go directly to the fields. And right over here, this was last week, we went 5 miles away from Ben Gurion Airport to a moshav called Kfar Truman, named after Truman, the president of the US. And this moshav, established in 1949, needs specifically people to help with the chasa. What is chasa? The lettuce. So for 2 hours, we were planting lettuce. Now people are jet lagged and, they just got off the plane, but that's what we were doing for a couple hours. And right after that, we went up to Jerusalem to pack food for the needy. So this is the kind of things people are doing. Not only going to the hostage square, well, you'll see these plates that say, Kama tov shebata habaita, how good to have you back home, right? Referring to the hostages, hoping that they're coming back soon, maybe even for Pesach, maybe even for the holiday of freedom. When we celebrate the freedom of our nation, maybe we'll see some of them at least on their way back to Israel soon. But we don't only go to the hostage square. We really, on these trips, will go meet people. One of the most amazing things I've seen, and I wanted to share with you, I know you're all very interested in the culture and society of Israel. This is a kibbutz you're looking at. The visitors sitting down are American Jews, and they're sitting in a room in this high-rise building in southern Tel Aviv. And this is a man called Daniel. He's from kibbutz Re'im. Re'im in Hebrew means buddies, friends, right? Kind of like ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha. The word re'acha means, right, your neighbor, your buddy, your friend. So kibbutz Re'im is a kibbutz that is about friendship, about living together. And they decided immediately after they were attacked on October 7th, they're very close to the border, very close to Kibbutz Be'eri and Kfar Aza. They were evacuated first to Eilat, all the way down south by the Red Sea. But 3 weeks later, they got on their feet. They met together as a kibbutz representatives, and they decided to move outside of the hotel from Eilat, to move all the way up north to Tel Aviv, to the Mediterranean. They would now rent these two high rises in southern Tel Aviv, where on the bottom floor they have the kindergartens for the kids of the kibbutz, and hundreds of people left first the kibbutz to go to the hotel when they were evacuees, and now they decided they want to have control in their life. They don't want to be served breakfast. They don't want to live in a room that's as small as like a shoebox. They want regular apartments where they can let their kids run around. They want a place where the kids can go to school, go to kindergarten. So we visited this kibbutz with these two big buildings in Tel Aviv. And with the group that I was guiding, Daniel got in front of us, and he started telling us about what happened in October 7th in Kibbutz Re'im, how traumatic it was, and how people in the kibbutz felt that they really, with all their resilience, they need to get back on their feet. Lakum al haraglayim, get back on their feet. How are they doing that right now? Through something called Project 24. You may see it on the screen on the top left part. It says Project 24. 24 kibbutzim and moshavim were attacked on October 7th. There were 70,000 people living in the Western Negev, otherwise known as the Gaza envelope. By the way, many people there don't like that name, Gaza envelope, because you're like, why are we called after Gaza? We live in the Western Negev, right? Do you call the communities up north by Lebanon the Lebanon envelope? No, so why? But in any case, they decided to start a project with at least 24 different initiatives of using the talents of the people in the kibbutzim around them. For instance, if someone is an artist, we're going to sell their art, and we're going to have people invest in building a new place for that specific woman to do her art, to continue doing her art. If we have different abilities in the kibbutzim and moshavim in the Western Negev, we're going to have people partner with them from all around the Jewish world, not only North America, and kind of like they'll buy a stock inside these new initiatives, these new companies, these new talents of people that are turning into a way to not give people money, but give them a job so they can actually, support themselves and their families, which is amazing. when the Rambam, I believe, Rabbi, correct me, I think it was the Rambam that said that the highest level of tzedakah, to give tzedakah, is not to give someone money, throw money at someone, oh, here's a check, here's dollars. That's awesome, that's great. But to actually help him create a place where he could support himself and sustain himself and have kavod for himself and his family is even more amazing.
That's
So
the
this
highest
is a
level.
project. Yeah, so that's the highest level of tzedakah. So we're sitting there amazed at the stories from October 7th and how people survived the attack. Some of them were killed, murdered that day. The bravery of the people of Kibbutz Chaim, not only in battle, but the bravery of getting up 3 weeks later in the hotel and saying, enough. We're not going to live in a lot. We're not going to live in a hotel. We are responsible for our kids, for our families, for our community. We're going to go rent these 2 huge buildings. We'll live together as a community. We'll have meetings. We'll have different chugim. We'll have, extra curriculum after school for the kids to play volleyball and to play board games and to learn art together as a kibbutz. We're going to do it in Tel Aviv. And if and when we are ready, and we will be ready eventually, we're going to go back to the kibbutz. Some people go back daily because they have to take care of the livestock, the chickens, the cows, the dairy farm. This is us, the same trip. And again, this is just a few things I want to share very quickly before we go into our main theme. But, this is just packing food for the needy. And it looks, it is fun. They put on music, you come in there, but we packed thousands of these bags within a couple hours, right? 35 people. And we just got in there, vegetables, fruit, wheat, sesame, different ingredients for trina, all kinds of different things in these big bags. And then later on that day, it's actually that same day delivered to people that would need this, right? People that are in poverty, that this is very, very helpful for. It's such a good feeling, especially during a time like this, to really exercise the ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to exercise the, being together as an as a people, because a lot of people lost their jobs. If you work in a restaurant in the German colony in Jerusalem, you don't have a job right now because that restaurant is closed. If you work in a hotel or on a tourist site or all kinds of different parts of our lives have changed. People lost their jobs. A lot of people are getting unemployment, and that's not enough. You get 60% of what you make in a regular month. And if you have 4 or 5 kids, how do you continue? And there's a war going on, So a lot of more people need this extra help of money, of food, of help of finding a new job. This guy, Ross, over here in the front is telling our group about Brothers for Life, a rehabilitation center that was created by people that themselves were soldiers in the Israeli Defense Force, were injured, and from their own experience, they learned that the bureaucracy can sometimes be too long and too exhausting. And they really wanted to help people like themselves that were in the army and were injured. So they, together with American Jewry and specifically a rabbi from the Bay Area, raised money. But more than that, they brought people to Israel to figure out what these injured soldiers would need, not only physically, but what would they need for their neshama, for their trauma, for their post-trauma? How do we get them back on their feet? Some people needed to do physiotherapy and hydrotherapy in water, so they built a pool and they brought a physiotherapist. And other people needed a place not only to do their physiotherapy, but also a place where they can have a WeWork, meaning an office where during their physical treatment, they can also work on a computer and do their high-tech job, or whatever job they would do back home, they would do during the day in Brothers for Life Center, right by the airport as well. An amazing organization. So write down that name. It's just a cool place to research. Brothers for Life. I wanted to show you this picture of a community called Bethel from Chicago. And this is more personal, and I allow myself to go to the personal because I feel like we already know each other. We've met so many times before, some of us in Israel as well, but on these Zooms, I get I start guiding this 4-day trip. Every day ends at like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Barbecue with the soldiers one night, special unit. They just came out of Gaza. Everybody's crying and dancing and Am Yisrael Chai. But then we get to the Western Wall, and it's a Thursday, and it's the last day of the trip. And it's a very emotional moment because we're there alone at the egalitarian part of the wall. Rabbi, I mean, you know, alone on a Thursday, you usually will have 20 groups in this part where you can have egalitarian prayer. And we're standing there alone. I was so happy we made the effort to come out. It wasn't originally on the program. And I ended up reading Torah for them. And during the Torah reading, somehow I figured out with someone from the group that this congregation called Bethel from Highland Park, Chicago, is a very special congregation to me as well, and especially to my mother, because my grandfather Moshe established this community.
Wow.
So this was, I was just like, I'm named after Rabbi Moshe Clears, who was born in Tzfat, Israel, but became a conservative rabbi later on in the United States. And I somehow, don't ask me how, maybe it's Hashem or whatever it is, I meet up and read Torah for them and guide them in such a time throughout Israel. Very, very emotional. I never met my grandfather, but at least I'm walking in his footsteps and meeting some of his people from Highland Park, Chicago, Bethel community. So that was pretty amazing. That was the end of the trip. For me, this is a very symbolic place to pray, where we see the destruction of the second temple from the year 70, and specifically the stones from an arch that was destroyed called the Robinson's Arch, maybe as a little bit of a reminder of you know, what happens when we don't agree with each other and we don't respect each other. We don't have to agree. It's not about agreeing, but I think the year that we had before October 7th led to a big part of weakness in the people of Israel, not only here, all over the world, but especially in the land of Israel, arguing about the politics, about different issues, the judicial system. We don't want to end up being destroyed with all these stones on the floor. This is a reminder of the year 70 and what senseless hatred can do. So hopefully we will be learning from these experiences. Our enemies saw us and decided to attack. Hopefully we'll never come back to this kind of situation. Number two, I want to show you 3 or 4 pictures from what I did in the past 2 days, and I think this will interest you. My friends are all more or less my age. I'm the youngest, I'm 48. They're 50, 52. Some of them were in reserves, even though they're above reserve age. Gadi, my friend, was in 3 months in reserves in Gaza. He volunteered to a specific unit. And here we are, leaving our families, our wives, for a night out in the desert. And I feel like it's not just a tiyul, it's just not just a road trip. We went out there to this gorgeous spring day and night because we felt like we needed it. It was a time in the past 6 months that we're like, okay, let's meet, let's make a bonfire, let's make a nice barbecue, and let's sit around a fire and talk. And I have to be honest, you know, things came up. We were sitting there around the fire in the middle of the desert. We saw the beautiful parts of the Dead Sea. I took these pictures, and this is where we're sitting around this campfire, beautiful stars above us. And what do you think we're talking about? You know, the first thing, I knew this would happen, right? So first it was about, you know, everybody, what's going on with their family? What's happening to them during the war? Did they even have a Purim? How did you celebrate Purim if there's a war going on? I mean, look at my picture. I have this yellow thing that says, bring them back now on my wrist, but everybody celebrated in their own way. So we're sitting there talking about the present and the past of what happened in October 7th and being very honest about the future and about how worried we all are. But I have to say that leaving the next morning, I was like, okay, this is Am Yisrael. How awesome are these people? Every one of them is such a good example of, you know, the prickly of Israel and the warmth of Israel and also the sweet of Israel. Just like the Sabra bush, these Sabra Jews living in Israel, born in Israel, most of them, are prickly in the outside, but they're sweet and they're soft and they're soft in a good way. And they brought out all of their emotions talking about the war. Many of them lost friends during the past few months. Some of them were fighting in Gaza, and all of them, just like all of us, any Jew in the world, are going through this challenging time. So I have to say, for me, this was an amazing, amazing day and a half. I was the guide. I took them around. That's my responsibility, to find interesting places, to stay overnight, and to go on a trip. I want to also share with you what is happening as far as our society. What kind of initiatives are people taking at this time? So we started talking about American Jews coming here on solidarity trips. The second stage was, how are Israelis dealing with this? Here's an example of my friends going out to the desert, not just to hike, but really to talk with people where you could say anything in front. And it was super interesting. My wife, who works in the Knesset, Vered Noah is her middle name, she's in charge of production in the Knesset, all kinds of different productions when VIPs come, or when there's a ceremony for Yom HaZikaron or Yom HaAtzmaut. She's a big producer. One of the projects she received 2 months ago was to create a book. And this was a mission from the Speaker of the House, the man called Anir, who basically said, listen, Vered, I know you're really into the educational side of this, and creating books and doing things that will last. I need you to create, with the best photographers of Israel, a book without too many words, a book for people to take to their governments, to their speakers of house, to their leadership all over the world. We're going to send it out. There's an article in today's newspaper about Germany receiving this book, and it's specifically our best photographers going in one day after, the 8th of October, meaning on the 9th of October, the photographers went in. Some of you know I'm really into photography. I went to Kfar Aza. I actually had a session with you after that. But I don't know if you remember, I told you I couldn't take pictures with my camera. I quickly used my phones. It shocked me so much. I almost felt like I was in a Poland trip in one of these concentration or death camps. That's how bad I felt. In many ways, everything was burnt and ruined. But these photographers went in and they took pictures, and they described in like 6 or 7 or 8 words what they took pictures of. And this was sent all over the world. And by the way, Rabbi, if you send me, and this would be great if one of you could do it, or the rabbi, send me an email from you signed by someone from the congregation saying, we heard about this book, Memory Fragments, made by the Knesset. We would love for you to send it to us. They don't charge money, but they request. I just think that sometimes I'm being a little bit critical now, so forgive me. You can't, that I love Israel, and it's like family. When you love your family, sometimes there's little things to improve. Israel is dealing with itself from that right now, and that's totally fine. There are opportunities sometimes to bring Am Yisrael, all of it, into the story. You guys are reading the news every day about Israel. I'm not sure every Israeli is hearing about what's going on in the United States of America, and jury and students in the Ivy Leagues or every university. Not an easy life for Jews in America. We all know that by now. But I would love for my government in Israel to say, this is something that every community in the Jewish world, and especially, these two communities, Israel and the US, or Israel and North America, being pretty much the same size, we need to make sure that we're on the same page. So I would love to have this sent over to you, to have it in the entrance to your synagogue so people could see it. And of course, you saw some of this on the news. I'm going to show you some of the photos, but there's something about getting it from Israel and having it in your synagogue. Later on, I'm going to also talk about this unbelievable project called Yom Echad Be'October, one day in October. I do not think it has been released and translated to English yet, but it's about a man called Yair Agmon, who was not invited. He was not brought up to his reserve unit. He got really upset. He's a writer and a producer, and he decided to do the following, to use that energy that he had. He wanted to contribute, And he basically went out with a team of people and they interviewed hundreds of people that survived the attacks of October 7th. But he didn't only interview people that survived the attacks in the Western Negev. He interviewed people that he heard about that had a heroism story, that were heroes themselves. And I'm not only talking about religious or non-religious, it's Jews, it's Bedouin, Muslims, it's Christians, all kinds of people from the Israeli mosaic of society. And he says, when I was interviewing all these people, I had to choose 40 stories, 40 people. And the more I heard from them, look at my back and my neck. He says I started being more, I could breathe suddenly and I could stand up straight. And hearing these stories, I was reminded again in all these amazing qualities of these amazing people, our people, Am Yisrael. So I'm going to share with you 4 stories of Giborim, 4 stories of heroes of Israel, a brand new book. I found the last one in the central bus station in Jerusalem because the first few days they brought out, I heard about it. I couldn't find a book anywhere in Israel, but I just couldn't put the book down. So I have to share this with you, and stay tuned for the time it actually comes out in the US and get a book, because this is our people and these are their stories, and it's very much uplifting with all the tragedies that are told in this book. These are amazing people that made amazing, difficult choices and saved lives of others. So here's a little part of the first book. And I warn you in advance, I'm going to go through this pretty fast. It's not a long book, but I want you to just get the idea of this first book of the photographers going in to the houses, one second, going into the houses of, I'm going to make the picture a little bit bigger, one second, just so we can see a little bit better. Move it. Yofi. So this is the book about the memory fragments. Look at me for a second. This is the size of the book. I don't know if you could see it. Wait, where? Oh, you can't see it because I have a screensaver, but it's a big book. This is the Speaker of the House in front of the Knesset, and this already takes you to Kibbutz Be'eri with over 100 people either murdered or taken as a hostage. A photographer called Micha Brickman taking a picture of a calendar which is in ashes. The plans for the future are all gone. And this is Route 232 on the way to all these kibbutzim. These are people that were basically shot in their cars and their cars were burnt. There were hundreds of cars like this around the road. All of these cars are now in a moshav called Tkuma, near a community called Ofakim. They put them in a moshav. Many of them have like 100 gunshots in them, but they're keeping them for now. Look at the tank in the background with the bicycle of a kibbutz, of a little kid on a kibbutz, and look at inside of a house in Kibbutz Be'eri, totally burnt, with the pictures of the family on the refrigerator right in the center of the picture, the bullet marks all over. And again, inside Kibbutz Be'eri, this pluralistic community with different houses, different flags, different decorations. And finally, a man called Skazi. Skazi is a DJ who plays music in parties like the Nova Festival. Nova Festival, there were 364 people that were massacred within just a few hours. He came back a month later after the murder, after the massacre. It's the largest massacre we ever had in the land of Israel. 364 massacred and 44 were taken hostages. Most of them are not back yet. These are the pictures of some of the people that were murdered in this beautiful place where usually in January and February we come to see the red flowers in a festival called Red Negev Desert or Red South. Well, this year there was no festival. There was nothing to celebrate. He came back to play music as a tribute to the people, the victims that were murdered, and to say, not only never again, but we're back. We're not leaving this place. So he played the music again. And this is Dizengoff Square with the teddy bears. Kids are taken from the different kibbutzim, even babies like Kfir Bibas and his brother Ariel, and they're hostages underground somewhere in Gaza. Some of these pictures are very difficult to see, but I think that's the point. So much is going on in social media against Israel, not only pro-Palestinian, that I have no problem with, pro-Palestinian. My issue, and I think Israelis' issue, we're not against innocent Palestinians. I don't think anybody's against innocent Palestinians, but when it becomes anti-Jewish or anti-Israeli or anti-Israel, that's where the problem is. Are there, the question is always, are there any innocent Palestinians in Gaza today? I won't be very PC. I think there are some, but I think a lot of the people in Gaza, and if you talk to soldiers, they're going to say, no, there's no innocent Palestinian. But look, out of 2 million people, I'm sure some people are innocent. Not everybody is a supporter of Hamas. Not everybody wanted them to come up to power. They're under a regime of terror. But in any case, going back to these pictures and the situation, I want you to look at just a few more of these pictures. This one caught my eye, and this is a window in front of a kindergarten. Gan Tamal. Imagine kids go to school here. I have 2 babies that are a year and 9 months old, twin girls, and these are kibbutznik kids that were shot at. Here are the cars I was talking about. Isn't this unbelievable? I mean, this is real. The year is 2024. This is real. These cars were burnt after hundreds of gunshots were shot at them by these terrorists. These were not people with weapons in the cars. So these, I wanted to say the word animals. They're not even animals. They're human beings who made these choices, right? Horrible, horrible, horrible human beings who murdered civilians and soldiers and kids and adults and elderly in this area. And this is actually in Jerusalem all over. You'll see, people going through their everyday life with these yellow signs, right? Bring them back home now. And we're always reminded with these pictures. And I don't know what words I can give this picture. Chaverim Yekarim, I'm going to stop here. Actually, I do want to show you 1 or 2 more. So if you allow me, this is all from day 3 after this started, as I said, when photographers were allowed to come in. And this is the funeral of Captain Neria Zisk. And this is his young brother, actually, that is crying in his funeral. And one of the last pictures here is a picture. So here's what I'm saying. As a photographer, as a human being, sometimes the pictures tell the entire story. And that's why the world needs to see this. They need to see this. They need to see this young baby daughter mourn. Her sister is by her mother is by her, and her dad was killed fighting for our people. Of course, we're going to talk about her today. Shir Bibas, with her 2 redhead boys, Ariel and Kfir, and her husband, Yarden, taken out of their kibbutz as hostages. And one of the last pictures here is really, you'll see the soldier praying out there. And, I could go on, but I do want to move forward with our story here. But the idea is really to bring this to the world and to say there's so much that we can explain with words, and there's so much that we just can't. To just look at those pictures and understand what these people, our people, went through on this day. This could never happen again. This is the man who actually created the book that I'm going to talk about right now. And it's a book called One Day in October. I showed you the picture before, 40 stories of heroes. And the first story of a hero is of this man. So I looked for an article to get his picture, and then I decided to just leave the article here because I think the title of this article, which I'll translate, is very powerful. And it tells the entire story. This man called Shlomo Ron is one of these 40 people described in this book, One Day in October. Shlomo Ron is 85 years old. He's from Kibbutz Nachal Oz, not near Oz. It's parallel to the northern part of the Gaza Strip on the Israeli side. Is a kibbutznik almost his whole life. and he sees the mechablim, the terrorists, coming near through his window. And what do? There's missiles coming through at 6:30 in the morning. The first thing you hear on your kibbutz is two words, tseva adom, red color, color red, actually, and a siren. And that means that's a code name for people to run into their safe rooms. And he doesn't run into the safe room because by the time he's ready to get up and go into the safe rooms, if you're a community by the border, 4 miles from the border, you're the first line considered, and you have a safe room in your house. Usually, you should have one, but it's not anti-terrorists coming into your house. It's to help you if a missile lands in the area, or even in your house, maybe you'll survive. That's how it's built. Well, he starts walking there, and then he sees he has 10 or 15 seconds to get there. It's usually around 10 seconds from that area. It's so close to the border from there where the missile was shot. And he hears the siren. He sees terrorists outside of his window in the kibbutz, and he sits down in his couch, just like this. And he doesn't talk. And his entire family, he signals to them, go to the safe room. And he is going to sit there quietly. The mechablim, the terrorists, are going to come in, and they're going to see an older man sitting on his couch, looking as if he's confused. But in fact, he's not confused. He's trying to save his entire family, his grandchildren, his daughter, and his wife that were with him at that time. That's Simchat Torah morning. Like, it's not, how do you even describe this, right? It's a split second. He saw them outside of the window, get into the safe room. He points to his wife, daughter, and granddaughters. And he basically, just like it says in Hebrew on the bottom, he was playing a scene of a lonely man in a living room. And they came in, they saw him, they shot him to death immediately. And then they're like, okay, he probably lives here alone because otherwise it looks like he's confused. There's probably nobody else here. They thought he was the only person living there. He saved his entire family by just making that decision. He actually he was kind of like an actor. He played on the kibbutz plays. He was always one of those actors, and he made that split second decision to save his own family. And he was successful in doing what he did, which was playing, I'm the only one here. This man is a random Bedouin, Israeli, Muslim citizen. He lives in a community called Rahat, the largest Israeli, well, it's not even a town, it's a city, 70,000 people, 15 minutes north of Beersheba. And he's asked by a few people going to the Nova Festival on Friday evening of Simchat Torah if he can drive them to the party. And when the party's over in the morning, after that, dancing all night, maybe drinking some alcohol, having a lot of fun, they didn't want to drive back home. They said, Yusuf, can you drive us? Yusuf El Zayadne drove them. And he knew that he needs to turn on his phone again at 10 o'clock in the morning because that's when they decided they're going to connect again and he'll come and pick him up. Well, he turns on his phone earlier because the whole Negev desert and most of Israel is covered with missiles coming down. He understood something big was happening, and he gets all these messages from his clients in the Nova Festival in that forest that were dancing until 6:30 in the morning, but were now running for their life because ever since 6:30 in the morning, they were attacked not only by missiles, but by terrorists, hundreds of them, massacring 4,400 people that were dancing. They weren't all killed, but 364 were murdered by those mechablim, by the terrorists. He gets in his car and does the impossible, the unbelievable, and goes towards where the fire is being shot, and he saves more than 30 people going back and forth. 2 other of his buddies that were also going from Rahat as drivers to go get other people were killed doing this Hatzalah, right? Saving lives. He managed to survive. Not only that, he brought some people to his own house in the Bedouin town, in the Bedouin city of Rahat, and he said, I am keeping you safe. Don't worry, you're in good hands, all of you. And he took like 24 people in a van that could take 15 people. He put as many as possible in, found more injured people on the way, and he kept going back and forth to save more and more people. So that was Yusuf, and this is the beautiful Amit Man, who dreamt to be an actress. She's a singer and an actress, and she's a kibbutznik living in Kibbutz Be'eri. She finished her army service and was a paramedic. That was her passion. Her boyfriend, living with her in the younger part of kibbutz, went to Netivot, a nearby development Jewish town, to help the other paramedics there because of the missiles. And he said to her, "You should come with me because the missiles are landing here. We should get out of here." She said, "I'm not leaving my kibbutz." And eventually she went to the infirmary, to the Kupat Cholim, where they were taking care of all the injured and eventually also dead people of the kibbutz. And for hours, she was saving lives. And she's texting the whole time to Magen David Adom, basically saying, "I need your help. Can you please come to Be'eri? Send ambulances." At some point, one of her friends on the other side of the radio in Beersheba says, "Listen, Amit, I have to be honest. I don't want to just, nobody's coming because it's a war and it's all over the place. There's ambulances going everywhere. None of them are going to Be'eri right now. It's dangerous and we don't have any more ambulances to go there. You're going to have to save as many people as you can." And that's what she did. Until finally, she had to save herself, and she did her best to stop the blood loss after she was shot in the side of her leg. But eventually, she died saving other people, that some of them did survive the infirmary, the Kupat Cholim, the Mirpa'ah, the MARP of Kibbutz Be'eri. So a young 22-year-old saving lives of people she could have saved herself, but she decided to do what her destiny told her to do, was to save lives, to be a paramedic. The next video I'm going to show you is not easy to see, so I warn you in advance. This is a video I may have shown some of you before, and it's a video that shows you may hear sounds or may not, it doesn't matter. You're seeing terrorists from their camera, from their car, throwing grenades into a safe room of the man down in the building on the right. He was shot to death by the terrorists. So he tried to escape the safe room on the side of the room. And every time a terrorist comes by for the next few minutes, he's going to come by, a terrorist is going to come by and throw in a grenade. He's going to shoot and then throw in a grenade to kill the 30 people that escaped the Nova Festival and were hiding in the side of the road. And there's one 23-year-old guy, Anir Shapira. That boom you just saw was a grenade that was thrown in. After 2.5 seconds, it blows up. But Anir Shapira, the guy who stands right in the front of the safe room, is catching every one of those grenades. They're going to throw a grenade. He'll catch it in the air, whereas it lands on the ground, and he throws it back out. He saw the grenade just go out, and now it's going to blow up. So the terrorists themselves are running away. Now the people inside don't have guns. This is unbelievable. He did this 7 times. He caught the grenade. Unbelievable bravery. Anir Shapira apparently said to the people in there, "Don't worry, I'm a fighter in Sayeret Nahal, a special unit. They're in good hands. I'm going to make sure everybody's safe. If I fall, if I die, the next one standing by me should come to the front and keep throwing out the grenades." This is like, it doesn't even seem real, but this is real footage of what happened in the last part of this, part of this documentary, or this real footage, this raw footage. The grenade does not come out. He cannot catch every grenade that comes in, and he himself will be killed with 15 other people inside. Some will survive, and some will be taken, actually 4 will be taken as hostages to Gaza until this day. One of the people that was taken from here as a hostage was a man called Hirsch Goldberg Poland, right? You know Rachel Goldberg Poland, who worked in Ramah, Israel. I worked with her for a while as she worked on our high school program. An amazing woman. You may have heard her in the rally in Washington. And she and her husband are fighting for their son, who actually was injured pretty severely, losing a part of his arm when that last grenade hit and killed many of the people inside the safe room. The safe room is very small. 30 people can't really be standing there. But here's the picture from the inside. I don't know if you saw this. And it gives me the chills every time I see this. This is the safe room on the side of the room. So if there's missiles coming down, you can hide while waiting for a bus, right? So the missiles come out, 30 people are crushing together, lying on each other. One of them has in his pocket a camera that takes an accidental picture. And what do you see in the picture? You see the back of a guy wearing a black shirt. That is Anir Shapira, that keeps throwing out the grenades when they come in. The 8th grenade will come in and he won't be able to catch it, and many people will be killed. They took this picture later on from the phone to the parents of Anir Shapira and showed them literally, if there's a word that describes what a gibor is, what a hero is, that's this moment. You guys hide, I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna try and save you. Don't worry, I'm a warrior. I am from Sayeret Nachal, one of the elite units of the army. Last week, I was there. I was there with the group, and we went into the safe room, and then we saw one of the friends who served together in the team of Anir Shapira. And he told us the story about his relationship, training and fighting with Anir Shapira. He wasn't there that day fighting, in the Nova Festival party, but he knew him very, very well. So we heard firsthand about this amazing young guy and about his values, about caring about the people about you, and even risking your life for it. And then he put on music for us that Anir Shapira composed. There's a new record that came out from the music that he sang and composed. My friend Yonatan, who is a friend of mine from the time of the army, just got married. The song at his chuppah, If I Forget Thee, Jerusalem, it was composed by Anir Shapira. So we heard that song inside the safe room. It's hard to describe. To be there with a friend of Anir Shapira at the place where he tried to save life and his heroism and ended up dying, and hearing his music about a connection to Jerusalem. What are we fighting for? Not just for us, not just for the flesh, but for the soul of our people. Unbelievable. And back to, I couldn't help it. I need you to hear this, okay? This is a little part of a song contest. And during the song contest called, what's it called? It's what they have this contest in the US too. People come up and sing and they choose the best singer. I forgot the name of this, but it's the same format here. Only this guy came out of reserve serving in Gaza as a fighter. And he's an awesome singer, but it just happened that the tryouts were during the war. And he asked his commander to be able, his higher commander, he's an officer himself, to leave for a few hours and to sing his song. And he got into the team. He passed the first part. So I want you to hear Shaul Gringelnik because, well, listen to a few sentences. Just listen to his neshama for just a moment. He's singing about a blind bat. Bats can't see from their eyes. They move around with different senses, and he feels like he's a blind bat sometimes in his life. Just listen to the music and to his voice. Look at his uniform as he comes from Gaza for this edition. Tell me if you can hear when it starts. 1 second. Can you hear it?
Yeah, yes.
כמה שנים בזבזתי בלהיות כמעט, כי לא ידעתי איך לגלות לך את חולשותיי. גם לעצמי סיפרתי סיפורים עליי. אני עטלף עיוור, צועק את חיי בחושך. אני ישן וליבי ער, אני נרקומן של אושר, כותב בלילה שיר, זה מנקה ממני עצב, כשנגמר לי אוויר, אני בוכה לבד.
when I don't have any more air, when I'm so sad, I just cry in my own car, I'm like a blind bat. And he passes the audition. Okay, that was his mother you saw in the audition. His family is supporting him. And now look at this. Unfortunately, he was killed in battle, right? And this is his family singing a song that he sang as part of the competition. And it's about everything is over. Everything will be over soon. Everything in life will pass, even the bad things. Don't worry, everything passes. Look at his family singing for him. He's in the background. This was a couple days after part of the contest. He was killed during the contest in Gaza. And just listen to this beautiful family from Ra'anana singing for their brother about life and how you should take it in proportions, and even the bad things will pass.
כל הלחנים ייגמרו, ולא יהיה לי מה לשיר לך באיזה רגע עצוב. אני יודע מה תאמרי עכשיו, זה כמו דז'ה וו. בואי תתקרבי עכשיו, צמוד צמוד. אומרים שהשמיים עוד מעט תתקרפו, והקדוש ברוך הוא יציל אותנו מכל הטירוף. אז ממה את כבר פוחדת? ממה את כבר פוחדת? בסוף הכל חולף, זוכר שפעם כאב לי, הלב שלי נשבר מאחד שכל כך אהבתי. בסוף הכל חולף, כל הרגעים ששמחתי בשנייה נגמרו.
Back from Gaza, he's talking to his family. Some people just think about how afraid they are from life.
אז את מגלגלת לך סיגריה ואומרת שדרך עיניים אדומות רואים יותר יפה.
These are his brothers.
תראי בסוף כל צבע מתקלב, אני חושב בסוף הכל חולף, זוכר שפעם כאב לי, הלב שלי נשבר מאחד שכל כך אהבתי. בסוף הכל חולף, כל הרגעים ששמחתי בשנייה נגמרו.
בסוף הכל חולף כחיים.
And it's a song that the brothers sang in this competition later on to a memorial for their brother. His last song was about life and how things pass and you get through them and you move forward and you can't just live afraid. Go out, go for your dreams. Shaun Gringelnik was one of those beautiful parts of our land. He's one of those heroes that went there to, in a way, protect us. These are people going out there again in a different way to fight for their relatives, their friends, their people, the hostages. And in the past week and a half, it intensified when the demonstrations and rallies, when a woman called Tami Arad, who was the wife of one of the pilots from the Lebanon war, she lost her husband, and for years we were trying to get him out from from being captive in Iran or in Lebanon at first, and she never got him back. And she said, "Stop being so soft." She's saying to the families, if you want to get your family back, politicians are not always thinking about what you are thinking about. You have to go out there and scream, make them understand that this country cannot continue without this contract of bringing back and first of all, protecting our civilians, but then bringing them back. Of course, there's going to be a horrible price, but you have to go out there and make sure they make the deal to bring back your beloved ones. So a very interesting article of this woman who lost her husband years ago. She's talking to the families of the hostages. Another huge issue that we'll only touch on for a second that people are talking on, arguing about. You hear it in the streets, you hear it in your dinner, and how can I even talk about this right now, right? But look at Haredi ultra-Orthodox 18, 19, 20, 22-year-olds with a sign up demonstrating on one of the main streets in the center of Israel. And the sign says, "We'll die and we won't be recruited to the army. We will not go into the secular state army. We're not going to be part of that. We'll fight through Torah. We'll fight through the book of Psalms. We'll fight through Tefillah. We will die and we will not be part of the secular state army." There's different sides of this. I'm not talking about in rights and wrongs. At the end of the day, we're all one people. We have to learn how to make it understood for them as well. And this is my personal opinion. How do we make this something that they want to do? Even if they're teachers in a school or working in a hospital for 2 years, whatever they do, national service, they need to be part of our state. We cannot live in a way that only some people are serving, whether it's in the army or national service. And we cannot go back to a situation of senseless hatred between Jews. We saw those stones from the Western Wall, from the Second Temple, and we saw the quote unquote stones and destruction of October 7th, 2023. I mean, we're still in the Shiva. We're still going through this right now. We're still in mourning. It's not even over. So huge issues in Israeli society. I know I'm running out of time, but I just wanted a little anecdote about a kibbutz that nobody's talking about that was harmed during October 7th. Is a kibbutz on the southern part of the Gaza, outside the Gaza Strip. Here's the border. Here's Khan Yunis. Rafah is on the border with Egypt. This is Israel over here. And this area over here is called Kibbutz Nir Oz. Here, let me try and get the word on. Nir Oz is a kibbutz that lost over a quarter of its people. This is a family that was murdered entirely in the kibbutz. But that's not the story. The story of this kibbutz is, and this is the whole article about these twin girls, these two, and the younger sister, and amazing parents on Kibbutz Nir Oz. The story is that just like them, a 85-year-old woman, Yafa Adar, was taken hostage in a golf car stolen from the kibbutz by terrorists into Khan Yunis. She was later on released in one of the deals. And more than anything, we remember these Batmans, and this is Shir and Ariel and Kfir Bibas. Kfir is the one on the right, who right now is a year and 3 months old, and her husband Yarden. We don't know if they're alive or dead. He's the youngest baby. He's the youngest person still a hostage. The oldest person is 86 years old, Shlomo Mansour. The story of the kibbutz is that for a couple hours it was going up in flames. And listen to this, and this is pretty dramatic. There was no battle in Kibbutz Nir Oz. Out of 400 members, 110 of them were either hostages at the end of this morning of Shabbat, October 7th, or murdered by the terrorists. By the time the army got there and entered the kibbutz, we're not such a big country, right? But the country is under attack. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm giving you the facts. They felt totally abandoned because the army only got there and entered the kibbutz at 11 o'clock in the morning. Finally, it came into the kibbutz and the terrorists were gone after having coffee in the houses, after murdering and taking hostages, after looting everything that they can loot from the kibbutz and putting it up in fire. This is the contract that we have with our government, with our army, with our intelligence. For months and years, we're going to have to understand what went wrong. The Israeli Defense Force, the intelligence, the government, our leaders are in charge of this project called the State of Israel. And we're not going anywhere. So we have to see what's happened here. People that need to be punished, that leave their job, need to leave their job. This can never happen again. That's Kibbutz Nir Oz. It's a small little kibbutz. Just for comparison, Kibbutz Be'eri has 1,200 people living in it. had 1,200 people. Here, a quarter of the kibbutz of 400 were actually either taken hostages or murdered by the terrorists. One last thing I want to show you about this is what different projects, they're showing you the size of the kibbutz. Look how small. These are all the houses that were hurt. And someone made this project of, you click on one of these red dots, and it tells you not the names of people that live there, but here's what happened to the father that fought the terrorists. Here's what happened to the kids. Every one of these tells you a story of a family. Every one of these dots in the kibbutz was attacked. And by the time our army entered the kibbutz, the terrorists were gone. They were gone a mile away into Khan Yunis, where they were holding all the hostages. These are the reservists who are basically saying to the politicians 2 words. They're not nice words, but I'll say them anyway. They're saying, shut up, or in Hebrew, stemutapeh, stop dividing. Any words that divide, we don't want to hear them. We're going to close our ears. So listen to the Hebrew of soldiers basically saying, we're reservists. We agree to disagree about everything because we have to keep our nation alive, our country alive. So this was on TikTok. I want you to look at what these soldiers are saying. They're saying, stop talking if you have nothing good to say.
סתמו את הפה.
סתמו את הפה.
סתמו את הפה. סתמו את הפה.
סתמו את הפה.
סתמו את הפה. סתמו את הפה. השקעה.
אני כמו כל הפלוגה שלי התגייסנו ב7 באוקטובר.
כבר מ7 באוקטובר במילואים.
ואני מבקש מכל אנשי התקשורת, אנשים שמשפיעים פה על השיח.
לכל 120 חברי הכנסת בפוליציה ואופוזיציה מימין ומשמאל ומרכז.
הנה לכם מסר מאחד לומר פשוט, סתמו את הפה.
אל תרסו את האחדות של...
Don't say it. The last 30-second part I want to show you here is a song sung by a singer called Eyal Golan with the words Am Yisrael Chai, a different melody from what you've traditionally heard, but it's also a cool movie to watch to kind of give us a little bit of an uplifting feeling at the end of this session. Am Yisrael Chai, we are not going anywhere.
בעליות, בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות, הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה, תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא אבדה האמונה. עם ישראל חי.
Chaverim, Yom HaAtzmaut is coming up very soon. Pesach is coming before that. We're hoping for nisim v'niflaot, for miracles, but we don't live praying for miracles. We need to make things happen. Pray for them and do for them as well. Whatever helps, whatever good energy you could bring to the table. Let's do it because Am Yisrael Chai. We're not going anywhere. If there's one thing our nation knows about, and our state knows about, and our army knows about, and hopefully our leaders will know too, we have resilience. We are not leaving this place. We're not temporarily in this place. It's not just a holy land, it's our homeland. Am Yisrael Chai, and we're going to celebrate on Yom HaAtzmaut. We're going to have the Memorial Day for the Chayalim, and we're going to celebrate and understand everything that we have in life. So toda rabba chaverim, Am Yisrael Chai. I know I didn't leave a lot of time for questions, but I'll stop talking now. If anybody wants to give a comment, ask a question, that would be great.
Moshe,
Yes.
shalom, it's Kevin C. Friedman, Yasher Koach. This was beautiful
Hey,
as always.
Kevin. Rabbi, how are you? Good to see you.
Beautiful. So very quick question. So God willing, we're going to visit our daughter Madeline, who's doing the Alexander Muss High School in Israel for Pesach. Can you
Yeah.
share in the chat what's the best? I know there's a website we should check like day to day of where to like of where you could go to travel. I'll email you.
I don't know.
I'll email
I
you.
actually don't know of a website like that, but I think the best thing would be to follow the State Department and what they say. They tend to go a little bit further about that. And more importantly, you have a friend in Israel. We are in touch on email, I think. Use me as an asset. You can call me up and I will try to describe to you where you shouldn't be going, right? And that's mostly up north of the Sea of Galilee at this time of year, because of, what's going up right now, in closer to the Gaza envelope. Other than that, people are living their lives, believe it or not. But
I
let's
mean,
be in touch. Let's be in
we'll be in
touch, and
touch.
I'm happy to help you with that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Shalom.
If anybody has a question or just a comment, just as we're a little over, but it's okay. Unmute. Linda Diamond, unmute yourself.
Hi, Moshe.
Hi, Linda.
So I was in Israel about a month and a half ago, and we went down south, and we stopped at the Shuva brothers, who had done this amazing respite for the soldiers. And I was wondering if that's still happening. They would serve hot meals, and they brought in all kinds of new clothing for them and pharmaceutical items.
Yes, it's an amazing project. I've been there a couple times in the past few weeks in that area. Most of those projects are still there, not only Shuva, but they're getting smaller. So if people are serving food to soldiers, you take it to their base and you barbecue for them. Because what's happening is our army is shifting out of Khan Yunis, out of the Gaza Strip, and it's on the borders of Gaza inside of Israel, and some of them are going up north in different areas. So it's not like it was a month or two ago with so many soldiers in the region, and
Yeah.
you see them everywhere and they come to eat. But yes, there are projects like this. I believe the one in Shuva is still there, but it's not masses of soldiers anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Amazing project, though. I'm glad you got to see it. And
I did,
part of
and
that.
got to see the Nova, where the Nova Festival was, and the burnt cars and stuff, but I was there. We have to bear witness.
Yes. Glad you did. Chaverim and Chaverot, sending you love from Jerusalem.
We're sending it back.
Yeah. And hopefully be smachot, as they say. We'll also celebrate together, right? These are tough times, but just keep remember those three words. Don't forget chanting them wherever you go. Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai. Rabbi,
yes.
Can we schedule a mission from our community?
Well, we'll have to think about it. Definitely. Okay.
All right.
All right,
I
everyone.
know there's a lot of us would be interested in being.
Of course.
Okay.
I want to just take a second to thank Moshe. This was wonderful as always. And just to dip in for even an hour, and to give us a sense of this. It's just a fraction, but it helps us feel connected. It helps us know what's going on, and helps us understand, I think, the complex, emotional, and everything, with the life that we are all experiencing, so many miles away. So thank you so much. And we look forward to having you again. If we don't see you before Pesach, have a lovely Pesach with regards to the family. And I'm going to write to you for the book, and we'll be in touch. Okay?
Toda, Rabbi.
Thank you
Great
all.
to see all of you. Judy, ani ohev otach, litot.
All right. Be well, everyone. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh.